It's not often you see a horror film present itself as an adventure for the first hour. However, that's exactly what we saw in the 2014 film, As Above, So Below. As Above, So Below feels like a mixture of National Treasure, The Descent, and Indiana Jones. Still, the movie has some pretty scary, claustrophobic scenes, especially for anyone who has a fear of tight spaces. The majority of the movie is set in the Paris Catacombs, a massive graveyard set underneath Paris said to house 6 million corpses. In general, I thought this movie started strong with a promising storyline, but was kind of a letdown as it introduced some of the supernatural elements. The story of the film revolves around archaeologist Scarlett Marlowe. She's extremely dedicated, motivated, and is searching for Flamel's legendary Philosopher's Stone. She soon learns the stone is buried in the Paris Catacombs and assembles a specialized team to go find the artifact. On the team, they have a cataphile named Papillion, who was quite familiar with the catacombs. Also, there is Scarlett's ex-boyfriend, who is a language scholar, and several other cataphiles join with them. Papillion leads them through an illegal entrance, and soon underground, the strange activity begins. The movie heavily incorporates the 9 circles of hell from Dante's Divine Comedy. In the movie, the group keeps going further and further down, soon learning that the only way out is down. This is first apparent when the group runs into a man named La Taupe. La Taupe, or the Mole, informs them that the only way out is down. When I first saw this, my first thought was that they would have to climb back up somewhere. However, as I kept watching, it became apparent that something supernatural was happening. All of the group members were battling their own personal demons, and the only way to escape was to face these. In the final scene, the 3 remaining survivors confess their sins and take a leap of faith. They survive, and then they find a manhole which opens up to the streets of Paris. I guess the name of the movie should have really given away the 9 circles of hell to me, but I really didn't make the connection when I turned it on and watched it. As mentioned earlier, this movie really feels like a mixture of Indiana Jones and The Descent. We watch early on as Scarlett uncovers clues and follows the trail trying to locate the legendary Philosopher's Stone. The stone is said to be magical and capable of turning metal into gold. Still, Scarlett, she's interested in the truth and the history of the Philosopher's Stone. She's not interested really in the treasure itself or gaining from it financially. Now, as the movie progresses and they enter the catacombs, it turns more into a movie like The Descent or The Cave. There's a certain claustrophobic feel, and there's several good scenes where the group has to wiggle through some very tight places. So the movie also does a pretty good job of creating this feeling like they're one mistake or one wrong turn away from death. They keep going further and further in, and even the cataphiles begin to get scared of how deep they are. We then soon see the supernatural activity begin to occur. We see this most notably with La Taupe, who seems strange and disappears at random. In general, I thought the movie started with a solid premise, an interesting story, but kind of copped out a little bit throwing in the 9 circles of hell. It just wasn't scary, and the movie seemed a bit confusing as well. I think the movie should have followed a similar path to what The Descent and The Cave did. Those movies, they introduced a subterranean biological predator, and in both those movies, the groups were not only trying to escape the cave itself and get to the surface, but they also had to battle those predators. Now, I know that going this route seems quite unoriginal, but the fact is the formula works. In addition, there's something interesting about doing a movie like this in the Paris Catacombs. There's an endless amount of directions the writers really could have gone here. Despite this, I thought the movie did have several bright spots. One, I would say, was the acting. It was better than average, Although it certainly wasn't incredible by any means, another positive is that it was shot pretty well in the catacombs. It looked good, especially for a found footage film. So it wasn't so dark you couldn't see anything, like a movie like Alien vs. Predator Requiem. They did shoot some of the scenes actually in the Paris Catacombs for this movie too, which I thought was pretty cool. I also have to point out some of the claustrophobic scenes were really good, especially when Benji, the cameraman, gets stuck crawling over those bones and he just starts freaking out. He can't move, he can't breathe, and it really highlights just how scary something like that can be. Now, much of the weakness in this film is definitely, as mentioned, toward the latter half of the movie. The film isn't a horrible watch by any means, but the last 20 or 30 minutes surely could have been improved. I would have liked to see them take this a different direction. One other thing I would have liked to see is either Papillion or Benji live and not Zed. Why did the writers choose to allow Zed to survive? It just seems like Zed had a much smaller role throughout the movie, and they should have had Papillion or Benji. We seem to know a little bit more about their backstory. Still, that is nitpicking a little bit, but I just wasn't entirely clear why they decided to let Zed live. So if you've seen this movie, let me know your thoughts. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Why so? Thanks for watching.